This is WGRG 100.5 FM, where we meet the absolute minimum FCC broadcasting standards. It's time to hang on and brace yourself for a community radio program that's frankly indescribable. Let's talk Geneseo. Two guys with nothing better to do on a Friday morning but to talk about our community. Geneseo City Administrator Brandon Meglin and City Alderman Keith Kennett. And yeah, nobody, and I mean nobody, puts the blah in blah 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 like these guys do.
And the blah 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 is back with you on this Friday morning here in beautiful Geneseo. Nice sunny morning, mid-40s. Should be a nice sunny day, high in the 70s and all that stuff. So, see, Brandon, I'm falling back on just doing the weather and some of the typical radio time-filling things and setting the table here for our fine program on this Friday before Mother's Day. And that serves as a subtle reminder to those that may not have been paying attention. It is Mother's Day, and that's one of those holidays that you want to make sure is observed appropriately. Mm-hmm. Because moms are important. So thank you to all our moms out there a couple of days before the big day.
Looks like it's going to be a warm and beautiful weekend for it.
It will be just a wonderful day here in Geneseo. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, warm and fuzzies. Yeah, something like that. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in and listening. Brandon, good to see you after our little holiday off. We have a couple more weeks of programs. Yeah. Next week, I know we have a couple of guests in speaking about water safety and also some of the swimming opportunities here in Geneseo. And then the week after that, I think we're going to have a guest back again because we have a special visitor as well.
Yeah, I think we have 3 more regular programs scheduled.
Oh, 3 more, okay.
Until we, I believe 3 more after this.
All right. Well,
until
that's good.
We kind of wrap up our season 2 with in coordination with the school year. But I guess, like always, we say maybe we'll be back throughout the summer potentially if we want to do a live on-the-scene remote broadcast for something special that's taking place. So just stay tuned to the city Facebook page for some of that, or the city website. But
yeah. So whenever our last program of the season, if you will, is, maybe we'll do something a little special too for maybe drive by, get a cookie or a donut or something.
Okay, well, you're in charge of the planning.
All right. So we won't have to worry about that panning out then. All right, perfect. All right, well, we're happy to have 2 guests with us. And Brandon, as usual, we'll turn it over to you to introduce our guests for today.
Yes, well, we'd like to welcome Mark Grabicheski from Quad City Investment Group.
He's back. He's bigger than ever.
After a couple months off, it's so nice to be back here in the studio with both of you guys, but it's that 2112 Overture. You can hear the majesty of Neil Peart on the drums. That's all I got to say. I'm just going to leave it there.
I'm envisioning Marky's on the plane on this beautiful horse, just riding here to the studio. Almost night-like. Wow.
I wasn't sure there if you were going to do the music. It's been a while since we had Mark in, so if the music was going to come first, or we were going to say Mark's name there. So
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's good to be back. I think it has been a couple of months.
We were getting worried.
Yeah.
Thought our first guest we'd scared away. We tease about scaring people away. They don't come back. Yeah. But we really wouldn't want that to happen.
Now, good to be back in the saddle again, everybody.
Yep. We also have another guest in this morning, Jeff Cousins from the Penguin Project, who we'll be talking to here shortly. But to get started, every time we have Mark in, we want to touch on some of the economic highlights going on around our world. So
it's been busy since I've been last on this segment, hasn't it?
Yeah.
A lot happening.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing in the headlines, most people would agree, is the discussion on global trade and what's coming out of the White House. So maybe, Mark, if you could give us your expert take on what's going on there in the world.
I'll give my abridged version, because obviously we could be here for the next couple of hours going into the minutia of global trade disputes, but kind of the shortened version here, so to speak. Look, let's kind of lay things out on the table here. President Trump has long argued that many nations around the world place tariffs, quotas, trade restrictions on U.S.-made goods and engage in unfair trade practices. But in my opinion, there's a lot of noise out there. But I think ultimately President Trump's agenda is China. I think Trump views China as the biggest violator of unfair trade practices. But also, China does restrict access to its marketplace. Kind of in the short term, that's where I think the argument's going to be, is China.
So what's your take on, we see the White House engaging with so many countries, China, Canada, Mexico, and others, all at the same time. What's the strategy behind kind of throwing it all into the bucket at once here?
Well, the biggest factor in trade disputes, it comes down to economic leverage. It's using the size, strength, and ultimately power of your economy to both impose and absorb economic punishment, and that punishment typically comes in the form of tariffs, which are basically taxes on imported goods we bring into the country. And President Trump has more than proven his willingness to use the strength and might of the U.S. economy as basically a sledgehammer to force other countries around the world to renegotiate more U.S.-friendly trade agreements. But in my opinion, you're right. We've got Canada, Mexico, the European Union, and a host of all these other countries at once. And in my opinion, I think President Trump is kind of going for the Band-Aid approach. Because if you think about it, Canada's economy is 7% the size of America's. Mexico's economy is about 6% the size of the U.S. economy. Neither of those countries really have the wherewithal for an extended, toe-to-toe long-term trade dispute with the U.S. economy, and President Trump and the leaders of Canada, Mexico, the European Union know that. Look, the 27-member nation European Union, its combined economy is just half the size of the U.S. So I think President Trump is just, hey, let's just get all of this over at once. I think in the short term, Canada, Mexico, European Union, and so many of those smaller economic countries will kind of fall in line. It's a matter of size, strength, and the economy. But the big wild card, so to speak, is China. China is the second largest economy in the world, and it has the size and potential durability to make this trade dispute last a little bit longer. So I think even though it's kind of a crowded field, really, there's one in there that really kind of poses the biggest risk to the U.S. and Trump's agenda, and that's China. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and China culturally has they play the long game, if you will.
Yeah.
And being communists, they operate under a different system. And so, if you're not that you're playing a game of chicken, but in a way you almost
but in a way
are.
You are.
And that is probably one of the factors is that we pretty much know how most would react in the situation, but that is that wild card.
And that is kind of the biggest X factor, Keith, is that unlike Canada, Mexico, the European Union, and all these other countries whose leaders are democratically elected and are subject to the whims of polls and re-elections, in China, their entire country, their entire economy is run by the Communist Party. And the Communist Party can just dictate that its citizens will be forced to suffer under a brutal economy during these trade disputes, rather than simply capitulating to President Trump. And then you go back to that size of the Chinese economy. As we said before, people are kind of surprised when you say, Canada's economy is 7% the size of the U.S., but China's economy is about 65% the size of America's economy, second largest economy in the world. So it has that potential durability to kind of stand up to the United States and go to toe and for quite a while in these trade disputes. And then as you point out, that X factor that President Xi and the rest of the leadership in the Communist Party, they can simply mandate that their citizens are going to go through some tough times in the economy.
And hindsight being 20/20, back when when they joined the WTO and stuff, in that, maybe should have taken that aspect into account. That it's
don't get me started about the World Trade Organization.
Yeah,
believe it or not, China is still deemed to be an emerging market.
Yes,
and so
it's very unusual, but yeah, they're definitely a big fish, but yeah, that was one critical aspect that should have been taken into account, maybe, that they operate under a different fundamental system, though, and so it's hard to have that integrate with other systems that are from a different operating standpoint. But anyway.
Yeah, and it's just, look, I understand both sides of the argument, and on this segment, we always try to put the politics aside, and sure, in these trade disputes, some people are for it. There's going to be some people against it, and understand both sides of the argument. But China is ultimately the play. I would say the singular play within these global trade disputes that affects so many countries around the world.
So fun times.
Yeah, it'll be interesting times. And as far as how long these last, and it kind of goes back to that durability. Mm-hmm. Trade disputes are really a battle of attrition. As you pointed out, it's each country trying to impose and absorb economic impact. And typically, that country that has the strongest economy wins, and Trump knows that. And so, yesterday we get to see some initial agreement between the United States and the United Kingdom. And in my opinion, I think the rest of the European Union kind of falls in line. We're already starting to see individual companies or countries within that 27-member nation European Union it's starting to lose that cohesiveness. Specifically, you look at Germany. Germany's economy is, one of the larger economies in the world, but over the last 2 years, that economy has really suffered. So you have countries like Germany and France and many others just, in my opinion, just really don't want to get into a protracted trade war with the United States. Obviously, both sides lose in some regards, but the weaker economies tend to get hurt the worst. And then with Canada and Mexico, it's the same thing. When your economy is 6 or 7% the size of the U.S., that's not a good recipe. And I think all the leaders know that. So again, in my opinion, the big play is China. And they meet this Saturday in Geneva, Switzerland for some initial talks. A little bit early to see, but I think it may kind of serve as a barometer for are they at least talking to each other? And if so, to what extent? And obviously, we've kind of seen the chaos in the stock market the last few months. From February through the first part of April, we get this, near 2-month steady decline in stock prices. And in my opinion, I think it was Wall Street kind of figuring in a worst case scenario that, consumer spending would tank, business spending would tank, and that, it'd kind of be a worst case scenario. But, over the last couple of weeks, better than expected economic data has come out. I'm starting to see a little bit of turnaround in some of these negotiations. So, but yeah, it's going to be a roller coaster ride.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for that update. We want to thank Mark, too, for, Mark's kind of our guest booker. Mark has a lot of great connections in the Quad Cities and has invited folks in to the program who are with organizations that have an impact on Geneseo or people in Geneseo, or things that folks out here in Henry County may want to participate in or learn more about. So we'd like to welcome Executive Director of the Penguin Project of the Quad Cities, Jeff Cousins, in with us this morning. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Yeah. So if we can kind of get into a little bit of, I guess, first by starting telling us out what the Penguin Project is. I think, the name, if you're just hearing it for the first time, you're kind of wondering what this is, and a little bit about how you got involved with the program and what your background is in.
Sure. Well, my day job is I am a co-chair of the Department of Theater and Film at Augustana College. I have been working there since 1988 as a professor, and I teach acting and directing and various theater classes and some first-year writing classes as well. But my real passion has become this Penguin Project. And it's interesting that you would mention that the name, kind of piques our curiosity, because that's probably the most asked question that I get is, why is it called the Penguin Project? And it was explained to me by the man who founded it. I'll tell you a little bit more about him momentarily, Dr. Andy Morgan. And he explains it by saying penguins, and I think there are some marine biologists who might disagree, but he says penguins are technically disabled birds. They have wings, but they can't fly, but their spirits soar. And so, of course, there are other flightless birds, but penguins, have communities that they hang in. And when they're underwater in their own environment, they're very fast swimmers. So he felt like that was a good metaphor for the way that the Penguin Project works. So I learned about it back in 2016. I went to a theater conference downstate in Peoria. And I was there to meet a theater architect because we were putting our final bids in for a remodel of one of the buildings on Augustana's campus to turn it into a theater. And I happened to be also kind of looking for things that we could put in the theater besides our own productions that would link to the community, the greater community, and bring more people into the building once we had it finished. So I was waiting for that appointment with the architect designer, and I had some time to kill, so I looked at the program and I noticed that there was a session called the Penguin Project, and I had never heard of it before, even though it had been in Peoria for I'd say 10, 15 years by the time I learned about it. And so I went to see the session, and Dr. Andy Morgan was there. He is a retired physician who during his practice specialized in working with kids who have disabilities of various kinds. Developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, some emotional disabilities, a lot of kids on the spectrum. And he had a love for community theater as well. He was a community theater guy. And so he decided after he retired to put his two passions together, community theater and working with young people who have disabilities, and he created this wonderful formula for the Penguin Project. So he explained that at this session, and he brought some of the young artists, the Penguins, with him to demonstrate their national anthem, I'll call it, which is Don't Stop Believing. And it's not the Journey version, it's the Glee version. But that has become the national anthem of the Penguin Project, and chapters all across the country sing that after every rehearsal and every performance. And there are oftentimes people who come to the performances of Penguin Project, and they, if they've been involved in Penguin Project somewhere else in the country, they're invited to come up and sing the anthem with the young artists on stage at our theater. So it's a theater program that's been developed specifically for young people with disabilities. it's not that it's unique in that way. There are certainly a lot of programs that have been done before and continue to be done that make access available to kids who have disabilities. But the thing that makes this one unique is that they're in the limelight. They're not relegated to a background role. They're not just an ensemble member or a chorus member. They play all the parts. And the shows that we do are junior level Broadway musicals. And so we do one every year. When I saw the artists demonstrate this at that session in Peoria, I was so moved by it that I asked Andy Morgan, how could I get something like this in the Quad Cities? And he said, funny you should ask. He said his sole reason for being there was to try to spread the word and get more Penguin Project chapters founded, especially regional in the region. So he started it in Peoria. When I joined in 2016 and brought it to the Quad Cities, we were number 13. And today, if you look at their national website, you'll find there are chapters all across the country, almost 60 chapters in the country, as far west as Washington State, as far south as Florida, as far east as Pennsylvania. I mean, they're all over the place. But they started in Illinois, in Peoria. That's the flagship. And branched out into the Chicago area and other places in the Midwest from there. But now they're all over the country. So I knew I couldn't do this on my own. So on the drive back from Peoria, I thought about this, and I thought, boy, that's a big task to try to make this work. And so as a result, I asked my friends at the Center for Living Arts in Rock Island, who run a youth theater school and program in Rock Island, downtown Rock Island, Dino and Tina Hayes, and I asked them if they would like to go on this adventure with me. And it took them all of 5 seconds to say we're in, and so we partnered with them. So Augustana is the home of the Penguin Project, and then the place where we go to rehearse the plays are at the Center for Living Arts under the direction of Dino and Tina Hayes. And then every January, the Penguins land in the Bruner Theater Center at Augustana for their performances.
Okay. So it's performances are once a year then?
They are once a year. We do three performances, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, at the end of January. And so once they move out of the rehearsal space and where they've been working with the Hayeses, and they come to Augustana, then our students take care of costuming and set construction, and some of our students are peer mentors. That's the thing that makes it work, is the peer mentors who shadow the Penguins, the artists with disabilities, through the rehearsal process and into performance. They stand during a performance. They stand behind them, so that if they need help with a line or they need to be adjusted physically, so they're in the light, you have a peer mentor their own age who can do that for them.
Yeah, we have a great organization here in Geneseo, Inspire Continuing Care, and I believe, Mark, you serve on the board for ICC, who have really done a lot and inspired a lot of us here in Geneseo with the work that they've been doing. And I guess it's my understanding that some of the ICC participants have participated with the Penguin Project. But what, if there are other folks listening that are interested in putting the word out about this or getting somebody involved they may know, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's unfortunately not easy, because I think we're one of the Quad Cities' best kept secrets, and it's the reason for that is we don't have to publicize. We fill the house. Every performance is a packed house, just within that community alone. But we have a Facebook page where you can learn more about what we do. The national organization has one as well. If there are people who want to start a chapter in Geneseo, for instance. There are ways to do that through the national chapter. And we also just started. You mentioned the organization that you're involved in here, and that's for older people with disabilities. Is there an age range, or mostly older?
Yeah, I believe, and Mark can speak to this better, but after they exit school.
Post high school. And again, we're so excited to have you. When we first heard about this, Penguin Project, Brandon, Keith, and I were just kind of buzzing about it. And just to give a shout out to, I'm not sure your working relationship, but Jen Johnson, who's the founder and an executive director of Inspire Continuing Care in Geneseo, she kind of created that organization a number of years ago, and I was talking with her about it before this, and telling her that we've got Jeff coming on here and executive director of the Penguin Project, and she kind of got excited, and she's kind of started conveying that a number of the individuals, the special needs individuals that she works with have been a part of that Penguin Project, and just nothing but positive things to say. But how do whether special needs individuals, or even if it's mentors, whether it's high school, whether it's college, or people within the community, how can people get involved in that in some way or another?
Yeah, we well, first off, by making donations. Yep. We are, of course, nonprofit. And we survive. It's a free program to all the participants, not just the young artists with disabilities, but the mentors as well. So we make our revenue with ticket sales and sales of concessions and merchandise during the performances. And then we exist on grants and donations. Other than that, people are very generous about it. But to make a donation, you have to write a check made out to Augustana College Theater Penguin Project.
Okay.
If you just put Penguin Project on it, then it goes to the national organization as opposed to the local one. But the reason I mentioned the organization here in Geneseo is because just this last year we started Penguin Players, which is for those people who have done Penguin Project and then aged out of the program. It's primarily for them, but it's open to any people with disabilities who are over the age of 23. And once our artists hit 23, then they age out. So we just started that, and it was successful this last year, so we intend to keep doing that. So no matter what age they are, they can be mentors or artists in one of those two different programs that we run now. We do have some volunteers from the community, parents of the disabled artists usually, and we like to have one of the parents in each wing of the theater during performance, because they are more skilled than we are with working with kids this age group who have disabilities. And so if there's someone has a seizure backstage, or someone can't go on, and that's also, by the way, part of the mentor's job, is that if their artist decides that they can't go on for a scene, then the mentor, who has to memorize all their lines and all their music so they can help teach them, they step in. They're wearing the same costume even when they're shadowing them, so they can step in for them as needed. So we have a real need for peer mentors, especially older peer mentors for the older program. It's a little harder for us to recruit that kind of help. So those mentors, anybody who can mentor, that's where we need the most help from volunteers.
When's the next scheduled performance of the Penguin Project? And then, how often is that show? Is it weekly, or does it go on for like a month?
Yeah, we start in September, and the way to get involved is to watch the Facebook page for the announcement of the meeting in September. We'll have a couple of meetings in case people can't make it to one time. They can probably get it to the other one. And we meet, we give them information about it at that point. We take applications if they want to be involved. We do some, filtering out, because we have to keep our numbers at a certain size. But then from those meetings, if they want to be involved, they're given a rehearsal schedule, and if they're selected, they're given a rehearsal schedule. And then we rehearse from September through January. From September until through December, we're at the Center for Living Arts in rehearsal, and Dino and Tina Hayes are working with them as their directors. And then in January, they come to the Bruner Theater Center, and then that's where we get involved, where Augustana gets involved in that process. And then those performances are at the Bruner Theater Center on Rock Island's, or Augustana College campus in Rock Island. And then it goes the last weekend of January is the performance dates.
How many performers typically take part in one of these?
We limit it to 60.
60?
We were in our third year. I think the year right before COVID happened. We were at 93. We had 93 people on stage, counting the mentors and the artists, which was too many.
Yeah.
But we were competing with Peoria to try to get more numbers, and we beat them by like 3 people, I think. And then, but after that, COVID shrunk our size. We deliberately had to shrink our size, and so at that point, all the chapters went to 60 as maximum.
So again, if people want to get involved, go to the Penguin Project.
The meeting in September.
Okay.
Yeah. But go to the Facebook page.
Yeah. I mean, it just when we first heard about this, it was just kind of created this buzz. Just here we live in Geneseo, the Penguin Project, literally 20 some miles away, and then so many people weren't aware of it. So to be able to get you on this show and kind of the whole purpose is to inform the public of just this, what I think is just absolutely an incredible endeavor. It just not only for the special needs but individuals, but for the mentors at all. I think it's got to touch them in some way, being a part of such a program.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here, Jeff. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate the chance to be here and spread the news.
Yeah, very neat thing that's going on. And check out the Penguin Project if you're interested in giving or getting involved. So, Keith, what do we got going into the weekend? Anything else?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I know that we have KWQC's been doing the Hello Geneseo promotion all week. I believe they are at the museum today doing the news live, and also at the Geneseo Schoolhouse.
Yeah, I believe Central. Yeah,
or Central School,
yep.
I should say.
Yeah.
For the 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news. Not exactly sure which one's which, but watch KWQC. But there's been a nice promotion for the community all week long.
Been a great promotion, and hats off to the chamber for coordinating that. Mm-hmm. And the city's been featured and things going on and programs around town all week since Monday, with the wrap up of the live broadcast at 5 and 6 p.m. today on Channel 6, NBC affiliate in the Quad Cities. So check that out. Should be a neat program. It's been nice to see Geneseo in the spotlight, Quad Cities media this past week. So
yeah, absolutely. And real quick, I did actually have a question that came up. Maybe a quick answer, but Prairie Park, whatever happened with Prairie Park and solar panels? I kind of know the answer, and not an ambush, but maybe you can give a real quick update on Prairie Park.
You want to make this a 2-hour show today, Keith?
The quick version, but
yeah. So, and I did plan on, we'll give an update in the council meeting coming up on Tuesday as well. But I would say the short version right now is that the solar project is on hold for now, and that is simply because of evaluating some of the finances and the viability of doing the project. Things have changed as Mark got into in his discussion with the economy and investors and some of these incentives and federal credits and things, and the ball has moved a little bit on the viability of doing such a project. And I can speak for city administration that we're not just going to get into a renewable energy project to pat ourselves on the back that we did something that was renewable energy. It has to make financial sense to the customers and the ratepayers of the city of Geneseo. And we're not there right now. And so that's going to be, recommendation from my offices. But we are, to expand a little bit on that, it did spark a conversation around looking at Prairie Park and the city operations and utility operations that take place. We also have law enforcement operations that take place on that property. And we're not just going to leave that as it is. We are looking at the PD is upgrading their police shooting range. There's some security measures, some things, processes that need to take place. We need to really look at Prairie Park and what actually is the park, the trail system, and how do we do a better job of maintaining that, having signage, different things out there that I think we need to look at as a city and identify. So we're going to be talking about that more for sure coming up, but that's kind of the brief history of what's been going on there. There is going to be more activity out there, and helping that the actual park system and the trails that are in the woods. Let's do a little bit more with that. Yeah.
There you go. Sorry, Brandon. Didn't mean to get you on the spot there.
Like surprise questions.
And before we leave,
Yes.
before we leave, my phone was kind of blowing up a little bit here on the left, and actually just received a text from Jen Johnson, over at Inspire Continuing Care, right down the street. Herself, the staff, and all the participants are kind of watching this radio show live, because obviously we are on TV50 as well. So everybody wave to Jen and all the participants over at Inspire Continuing Care, which again, just a wonderful, fantastic organization within our community. And Jeff, again, we can't thank you enough for taking time to come from Augustana and the Quad Cities to be a part of our show and just kind of highlight some of the opportunities you provide.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yeah.
Well, and Mark, again, always a pleasure. Thanks for being our unofficial third person.
But I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I think I'm back.
That is true.
Yep.
Yes.
Looking forward to it.
And Jeff, also thank you. And again, admire your professionalism. Weren't distracted at all by the student announcements when you were talking. So well done. And Brandon, always good seeing you as well.
It's part of the limitations of having a free radio station within Geneseo High School is the morning intercom announcements.
Exactly. We provide all the information. So there you go. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Have a great weekend. And you're listening to WGRG 100.5 FM in Geneseo.